event is brought to you by our friends at the Boston Blockchain Association. So just a couple of slides, I'll be done in 30 seconds. The Boston Blockchain Association is in the entire area. It is the central hub of blockchain community in Boston and therefore the world. So you were invited to join. Check out bostonblockchainassociation.com. They have meetings very much like North Shore Technology Council, but purely in the blockchain, cryptocurrency, enterprise blockchain space. Their general agenda is to bring blockchain to the world, and you're invited to participate. So without further ado, I'm gonna just let Todd share his screen, and here's some information on him. If he's from Nuarka Labs, CEO, been there for several years now, being kind of ahead of the curve with the blockchain technology, and we're lucky to have him kind of giving us an overview and digging into how it, these acronyms that some of you know and some of you don't know affect our business and our society in general. So Todd, if you want to grab the screen, you can just do that.
I can't. You have to stop sharing first.
No, okay, done.
Okay. All right. So hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here today. David mentioned that we've been involved with blockchain for four years and change. That means that we are, as David said, the OGs, almost original gangsters in the blockchain space. It's an amazing, fast-moving place. But I'm the CEO and co-founder of Nuarka Labs. We are a blockchain technology company, really consisting of refugees from the fintech space. We spent 25 years in fintech, bringing risk and compliance solutions to the global financial service market, as well as a number of lots of different banks and insurance companies and capital markets groups all over the world. And so when we started this company, what we believed is that if we could marry that ability to execute, that confidence in terms of what kinds of systems you need to build, what kind of non-functional requirements are required to meet the needs of the JP Morgan Chases of the world, of the Barclays of the world, of the Credit Suisses of the world, and you could take that capability and that kind of robustness and privacy and security and marry that with this new technology, blockchain, that we'd be able to find use cases and create opportunities to grow in all different markets. That's largely proven to be true. We've been an unusual case in the blockchain community in that we're cash flow positive from revenue, not from crypto craziness, and we have been since late 2000 or early 2017. And we have live production systems in the U.S. capital markets world as well as in Latin America capital markets. So it's been a really interesting ride with this new technology, and it's been really interesting to see how many different ways we can deploy it and how many different ways it can help people address various different problem sets within their worlds. And I know we can't really do a show of hands here, at least not very easily. We're not set up for that. So I'm going to give you hopefully you understand crypto to some extent, you understand blockchain to some extent. So I'm not going to spend too much time going through that, but I am going to talk about the newest thing in our world, which are NFTs, or non-fungible tokens. So before I get into opening the floor up for some questions on that, I just want to give you some background on those. So non-fungible tokens use blockchain technology to look at the custodial trail of ownership for digital assets. The non-fungible tokens are digital assets, and then that information is then traced back in terms of who owns it, what the transactions look like, and other meta information into a given blockchain. The blockchains that are being used mostly are things like Ethereum or Matic or other newer chains that are out there. We really like Matic for that purpose, and I can talk about that if anyone's of interest after this presentation. But non-fungible tokens, the biggest and loudest example of these is what's gone on with NBA's Top Shot, and you've probably seen that if you've even been looking at the Wall Street Journal. It's hit the front page on a couple of occasions in the past 3 months, really sprung onto the stage in early February, and has exploded the use of non-fungible tokens. But what's interesting about those really is that the concepts existed as early as 2017. And in fact, Nuarka Labs was involved with building out some some concepts of how you could use those within marketplaces and how they could be used to do things like fantasy football leagues and collecting different digital assets associated with those football players, and then allowing owners of those to go head to head within a gaming context. We were having very, very slow conversations around that with the Washington football team in December, as early as December of 2020, or as recently as December 2020. And then when the Top Shots mania hit in February 2021, that really just blew the lid off of the opportunity and made everyone realize that digital assets were something that we were all much more comfortable with than had been previously thought. And it absolutely exploded the transaction volumes. So just to give you a quick idea, in 2020, there was 338 million in transactions. So far this year, there's been over 2 billion in transactions. This number the 1.3 billion was in April. So since April, there have been almost $1 billion in transactions. And it's just been absolutely explosive growth. So these assets are, if you think about how comfortable we've gotten with digital assets, I imagine that all of you are keeping your most cherished memories as digital assets today. So probably every photo, every video you've taken of your family, your children, your grandchildren, whatever it might be, are probably all on your phone, or they're in the cloud somewhere. And you're not printing those things out, or if you are, you're very selective in what you do, and you're sharing them, and you hold them, those memories, within the device that you own and within the infrastructure around that device. If you're a lawyer, or if you look at legal contracts, you are signing contracts more and more either through Adobe technology or through DocuSign or other similar type of tech stacks, where you're no longer printing things out and putting ink to paper, but rather trusting digital signatures, digital assets, in terms of writing those contracts and contracts you're going to adhere to long term. This is a similar type of concept. The difference being that these are unique moments, or they have a unique usability, or a uniqueness to them, a scarcity to them that makes them valuable either to collectors or to fans or to individuals who are looking to accomplish something with the NFT that they own. So this market is really at its very earliest stages. We are right now at somewhere around 600,000 people globally. That's it, own NFTs. Really small number. And the market cap, while it's turning over every few months, the market cap itself is around $500-600 million. So it's a very, very low market cap, very low number of users, but it's making a lot of noise and it's generating a lot of interest from people. We believe that if we can correctly create the democratization of access to these NFTs and allow transactions to happen directly in US dollars or other fiat currencies, whether it's Canadian or euros or pounds, whatever it might be, and we can really enable that in ways that are aligned with how we consume things today, then that will grow 1,000-fold over the next 5 years and follow the same kind of market cap trajectory that the cryptocurrencies have over the last 5 years. So we'd be looking at trillions of dollars in transactions by 2026, and maybe looking at hundreds of millions of participants, maybe as many as 1 billion of participants in this marketplace by then. And the winners in this space are not going to be and lots of creative ideas, lots of creative thinking, but the winners are not going to be those people with the most outlandish ideas. The winners are going to be those who can actually execute those concepts, can actually make this tangible, to bring it from just a general sort of proof of concept transaction to a physical instantiation that you can interact with. And that's really where Nuarca has demonstrated its ability to be successful over the last 4 years. And that's why we are in this 180%. Because we want to participate in this growth. We want to swim in this water as this tide rises. And this is where we're going to be spending the next 5 years in helping to create this marketplace and hopefully facilitating the growth of it by creating the right tool set for the space. So I'm going to just stop here for a second and ask if there are any questions. And if you want to ask a question, just unmute yourself.
I've got a big picture question. With the last thing you said, as far as tools to be able to use this. Is that, how do we put that into the metaphors that we use right now for our infrastructure? Is it a part of the stack? Is it an embed code? Is it a separate service? How do we think about it kind of big picture in relation to what we're doing now?
You can think of it as a new type of object that hasn't previously existed. Or if you've been, involved in software, for some time, it is a new type of object that you can use, or one that's becoming better use cases, better instrumentation and tooling around it. So if you think of blockchain technology, crypto technology, NFTs, where they sit today, right around the same place that Linux was before Red Hat existed. So you have to be able to, build around them to meet the non-functional requirements to make them really useful. And some of the core pieces are incredibly inventive, incredibly powerful components, but really difficult and takes a very technical execution to make them useful. And NFTs are, are a new tech like that. And right now there's just, it's like the Wild West, and people are, selling, essentially pickaxes. And what we're hoping to do is to, go out there and build more of an infrastructure around it and make it easier for the average person to participate within this marketplace. So I'm going to just touch briefly on, first of all, can you all see my screen's coming through with just the slide?
Yep.
Okay. So, in terms of the areas of opportunity that are here, we see everything from fan engagement in things like digital art, music, movies, sports, esports, fantasy sports, consumer branding, all the way through certificates, certifications, title, and ticketing. So there's all kinds of different purposes for NFTs. Some of these are already in the market, and some of these are developing in the market. A simple example is that there's no ticketing application in the marketplace, but that's something that a lot of folks are chasing because it allows the perfection of data from the ticket seller to all the different people who touch it when it's when the person finally walks into an event or walks into a stadium. And that also includes that perfection also includes a participation in the secondary sales marketplace. So if David buys a ticket to the opener for the Patriots game, and he sells it to me for $10,000, then the Patriots, if they issue this ticket on an NFT, get to keep 3% of that payment. So they participate in the secondary market as it moves along, and that's facilitated by the smart contract that's identified within the blockchain that's being used. And then there's other areas that can be used for provenance. One of the things that David and I have spent some time working with are major beverage manufacturers and distributors, and looking at where does the provenance of a certain set of ingredients come from? What farms did it travel from? What are did the hops come from? What was the farmer's name who farmed these crops, et cetera? And being able to easily trace that from origin all the way to the supermarket or to the liquor store. And NFTs make that extremely easy and straightforward process. And it's aligned, what you would normally do from a sort of torturous, what you would have done previously, a torturous SQL server type of, or a SQL database type of traceability. You just do it in a native fashion where all the parties involved, can see the passage of the NFT as it's moving from entity to entity along that journey. And along the way, it's inheriting new information around where it came from. And what the attributes are of those things that pass through, whether it's a bottling plant or a combine. So in terms of what is Nuarca building, we are building a platform that has multiple aspects to it. At the center is the platform, which is a marketplace, as well as a set of enabling tools that are wrapped in compliance and the ability to do these transactions in US dollars, as well as certain other open API components that make it easy to interact with and take advantage of its capabilities. So there are three pieces within this view. On the left-hand side is the fan engagement portal. Fan engagement portal is a private label, so it's a white labeled type of entity that enables the sports team or music artist or a label or an artist or someone who's running a concert, whatever it might be, to put together very quickly, very painlessly, a private branded site that's all about their fans, all about their fan engagement. They can really own their brand. A simple example of this is we're working with a collegiate baseball league out in the Midwest called the Northwoods League. The Northwoods League is 22 teams with some of the best logos and team names you could ever come across. The Moondogs was my favorite, but I found out they have the Dock Spiders, which is something that both terrifies me, and I think the logo is awesome. And I run into those on a regular basis. So we are under contract with them. They will be in the first wave of customers on this platform in June, and I'll show you a demo of their site in a moment. Essentially, what they want to be able to do is to drive fan excitement and fan engagement at their ballparks. They've got 22 parks. You get about 1.2 million unique visitors a year. And those fans are going to have a QR code on their first set of tickets, and they'll be able to log in with that QR code and get a free NFT of a player from their team that they attend. There will be gamification around collecting those. So if you collect the full set of the Moondogs for the 2021 season, then you get some piece of merch. Maybe you're getting a t-shirt or a hat or some discount. There'll be other games along the way. If you collect all, say, for one stadium, all the plays going back 10 years for one stadium, you might get access down to the bullpen, or you get into, or down to the, down to meet the players, whatever that might be. And thinking about all different ways to gamify this and find ways to really get into the deep lizard brain of the collector and the fan base itself, and finding ways to make that fun and interesting. This collegiate league in particular, about 25 players transition to major leagues on an annual basis. And some of the names, we would know. You're in the Massachusetts area, you're in the North Shore, therefore you're required by law to know who Chris Sale is. And so Chris Sale played here. So you have, Chris Sale's pre-rookie, strikeouts, right? So you can go back and the video of the, Chris Sale's best strikeouts before he was Chris Sale. And those digital assets are out there. You collect all of those. The league has the full rights for all of those things, including Chris Sale's likeness, as well as 2 days a year of Chris Sale's time to dedicate towards the league. And so you can put together these, these NFTs that, from a collector standpoint, have real value in addition to that fan engagement component. So this is something that we do in a very cookie cutter way, no cost, low cost setup. So we can very quickly brand it, very quickly get the look and feel right, very quickly get the right kind of mechanics behind it. And then with their content, push it out into the market within 4 weeks. Very, very quick, very painlessly. We're talking with other leagues around the country. Some of them you all will be very familiar with, other teams, other growing leagues, other growth spaces. And it's been just an absolutely fascinating journey. And these conversations are also starting to happen all over the world. So like we're speaking with the Hong Kong Sevens group. We're targeting Formula One entities. We're talking with the Hot Rod Racing Association, et cetera. Thinking about how we can quickly stand up this kind of new way of driving fan engagement. An engaged fan is a greater revenue producer, is a greater profit producer, and on top of that, they bring in new engaged fans, and so it becomes a mechanism for them to both get a more engaged fan base, as well as to drive in new fans in an advantaged demographics for them. They're obviously looking for new, younger fans all the time, like everybody else is. This helps them drive down that pathway. On the right-hand side of this graphic is really where we think this solution really takes off, which is an open API marketplace and basically a app store, where there was the ability for third parties to innovate on this platform. So these communities of passion, these communities of practice, where real innovation occurs, can leverage the tool set that we're bringing to create value. When they issue the NFTs, in whatever way they might do that, then those NFTs, we participate in the transaction of those, and we get a small percentage of that transaction value, and that's how we make our money. Meanwhile, they're free to innovate as much as they want to, and really to explode the value. Quick example of this, and this is an application we're building out around musician empowerment, really helping musicians collaborate together, find those collaborative communities where they can find the right sound engineers, the right producers, the right session musicians to get their stuff done. We record the cap table, the individual ownership for that digital asset, that piece of music, within the blockchain. And then we also allow them to fund those, their vision in order to get the music recorded or to participate in whatever their vision is, so that they can then make that a reality. When the funds, and we can do that via allowing them to issue an NFT. Maybe that NFT is a behind the scenes recording for when they put the session together. Maybe it's a unique, their favorite version of their best song, but that's not commercial, right? They can't market it commercially because it's simply not commercial enough in its tone, and it's not say radio ready. But it is something that their fans would love. And particularly if they're only issuing 100 copies of it ever, their fans would love. And so this gives a mechanism for, the Friday night bar band to get their community together to go buy some NFTs and fund their vision, help them achieve their next success, and then participate in that as that band grows and becomes more popular, and sell it in the secondary market in the future if they want to, or just hold on to it for bragging rights. On the back end of that whole process, when the money starts flowing in, that cap table that we discussed in the blockchain, we're probably using Hyperledger Fabric for that piece and Matic for all the NFTs. The money flows back in, and the cap table informs who gets what within that, and automatic distribution into accounts based on the smart contract that's been identified and the fractionalized ownership in each one of those digital assets. Simple example there. Just to make this very vivid, I thought it would make sense to look at a fan engagement example. So I'm going to take you quickly through Northwoods. And this is, again, going live end of June. Got to get to it. Okay. Can you all see the screen still?
Yep.
Any questions?
There's a couple questions we'll get to later, but they are relevant. So yeah, definitely keep going.
Okay. So Northwoods League, I described, who these are. If you've been in the Boston area for a very long time, you will know the name of the owner. His name is Dick Raditz, and his dad was a Red Sox player, a very famous one, in 60s, 70s. Dick owns this league. First thing we have is, you notice it's branded with Northwoods League. We have ability to have these card packs. Each card pack contains 4 to 10 NFTs. You can start your collection. You can pick out your favorite team. I'll point out the Moondogs because I love the Moondogs, and then also the Dock Spiders because that's terrifying. Also a great logo. This is a great selection of logos they have. It's a marketplace where you can buy individual cards, or you can buy specific packs. If we move in to start your collection, I can buy the off-season training pack. And what does that pack need to look like? Purchase that pack. We get to the storefront. We can buy more than one if we want to. We're going to do all of this with US dollars. Credit card never moves into crypto. This is a big piece of IP for us, and we are patenting it. It's in patent pending right now. We're the only group that can actually make this happen without moving it into a specific crypto. So we go to purchase the pack. And then if we want to see what it's going to look like, we can open the pack. And there's little things along the way to make it fun and interesting for the people doing it and to get into their lizard brain to help them pull it together. If we want to reveal what the card is, we pull it up and we can see this is Zach McKinstry. We can see the actual clip itself that it comes from. And so they have 4 cameras in every game, and you can see it's a great play. And for others, it might not be for us who are not in this league or in this space, it's probably not everything that we would ever want to collect. But if you're a Waterloo Bucks fan and you're trying to collect the game around that, you're into this. So this is just a quick view of the kinds of the kind of way that we're trying to make this happen. Now, this could also be if it was the NFL, or if it was say the lacrosse league, or if it was Major League Rugby, or anybody else. It would have a different look and feel. It would be skinned for that particular fan base, and that might mean that, say, for the Hong Kong Sevens, that it's a full black background with their hot pink and purple colors that they use, and it just looks different. It has a different feel, but the underlying platform is fundamentally the same technology. It's just a skinning and a brand change, a logo change, and that enables us to scale it quickly at relatively low cost. So this is the brand portal. This is a bit of a schematic. Fan engagement portal, your brand here, you put it in, whether this is musician, creator, an athlete, a team, whatever it might be. The content is what becomes NFTs. These might be videos, it could be photos, it could be animations, it could be tickets, it could be memorabilia. And on the memorabilia side, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about there, we're working with Rock Nation on its sports agency side. All of their basketball players put date the shoes they wore for each game. They wear a new pair of shoes for every game, and then they seal them and they put them on a shelf. What they want to be able to do from a selling the memorabilia at maximum price, as well as participate in the secondary market, is to sell those and issue a digital certificate of authenticity as an NFT that travels with the shoe itself. That certificate includes detailed 360-degree photos taken of that specific shoe, so it shows the specific wear patterns and it shows other different attributes associated with it. And then when the buyer purchases the shoes, and from a memorabilia standpoint, and they receive them, they also are getting this NFT, the certificate of authenticity NFT. And then when they get sold in the future on the secondary market, say Mellow Ball or whoever participates in the secondary market sale as well. So he would get 3% of the secondary market exchange value. So if it's $1,000, he's getting $30, and if it's $10,000, he's getting 300, and that happens from that moment forward. It could change hands 100 times, and every single time it changes hands, he gets $3. So and we're helping with the media production. We recognize that this is an area of that people are going to need help with, and because for us it really matters how quickly, from a financial standpoint, that this content gets onto the platform, we're helping them with that content. So we're helping them, build that out, to get the right look and feel, to think about what those clips are, and to do that kind of production cycle. We then are minting the NFTs into our walled garden, and then the fan engagement portal itself. This is either a mobile app. And I should show you on the mobile, maybe I will, but it shows up in mobile very well as well. Videos, artwork, tickets, memorabilia, one-offs. It could be that there's there's a one-off thing they want to do. Maybe they have, all the greatest players who ever transitioned out of the Northwoods League come back and they do something. Special access. So this is, maybe you're buying this NFT, and it enables you to have a front row ticket, a front row seat for every game for the year, something along those lines. And then there could be other quests and games associated with them. We talked a little about those quests and games previously. The fans buying those NFTs in US dollars, they can collect them, participating in those quests and games, becoming more engaged with the team or the league or the musician, whoever it might be. And then they can sell those in the secondary market and receive immediately US dollars back, or whatever currency they happen to transact in. So that's the view of this branded platform.
One overview thing I wanted to say, Todd, and this might go without saying, but this was a very interesting and dynamic business to consumer conversation or demonstration. However, this is, as you said, for any market. And if we have people on this call that are doing clinical trials and having patient-centric usage and dynamics in communities. iSpecimen is on the call. They have 55 billion points of data out there. This platform that you're talking about seems to be able to drop into just about any marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think about obviously the privacy rights. Not everything should be sellable in the secondary market, right? But in terms of the issuing NFTs and being able to use those things, use them as digital assets to hand off data or transact data from one ownership to another, to create immutable trails around that, absolutely.
There's one question about HIPAA compliance. That's just a matter of function, right?
Yeah, that'd
any
be a
kind of,
matter of design, right? So
yeah.
for HIPAA compliance, we'd have to make sure anything that we did around transacting patient information didn't include any of the actual patient information. That would have to travel a separate pathway because you don't want to publish all that on a chain, right? Obviously. So we'd have to, just that's an architectural kind of decision that we
And
could.
my point is completely doable, and that's the
Yeah,
relevance to this.
definitely doable. It's just a matter of understanding what those, what exactly we're talking about transferring. Like one of the things that we've had deep discussions on is medical trials and how you handing off data that double blind information that you're going through very specific follow-up details, detailed information, et cetera. And a simple example on drug trials, there's a really difficult to ensure that the participants actually take the medicine. And so maybe what you have to do there is marry that with a layer of AI of includes a video of them, taking the medicine that they have to submit in order to participate in whatever they're getting paid for that drug trial type of thing. And the AI tool is looking at the telltale, however many facial muscles there are, to determine whether or not the person's likely telling the truth about taking the medicine or they're likely lying. And that helps to create better, better outcomes and faster and more trustworthy result sets. Simple example. But while you're doing all of that, you can't actually, write any of the patient information into something as immutable and as open as a blockchain. That information has to flow through separate channels. So maybe we can open the floor up for other questions.
I'm going to read one question to you. Are the NFTs you're talking about basically artworks built on the blockchain platform? If yes, is beauty and value in the eye of the beholder? How does a layman evaluate value on any item? It's an interesting question, kind of,
Yeah.
is it
Well, I mean,
an auction, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yes. So, I mean, I'd say definitely beauty is in the eye of the beholder in these situations, and the market value is going to be whatever the market says the value is. So, you're talking about the collector mindset, and you're talking about the game mindset. I can see some of you, but not all of you. But I don't know if you were like me, if you collected baseball cards when you were kids. But so there's always a premium on trying to collect the full set of baseball cards, right? And you would buy hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of packs to get to that state. And you'd end up with 23 of the player you never wanted to see again, and that one player was elusive. You couldn't get to that player. And trying to recreate that same kind of gamification, the same kind of collector's mindset, that deep lizard brain type of connectivity to building out your digital card sets in the same way is part of what we're trying to tap into, that scarcity mindset where some of these will be a lot more scarce than others. That's on the sports front. On the other digital assets, like the music as an example, if Rihanna is listing a unique bit of music and there's only 100 copies of it available and only 100 people can get it, you can see how that scarcity, given her fan base and uniqueness, could drive great interest and price point for that kind of piece. There are also other pieces of digital art that have been out there that have sold for millions and millions of dollars. And those pieces of digital art are only existing as NFTs. Simple examples, a woman named Anna Wildings has been very successful on that front. You could look up her work. And so that's all the artwork side, but then there's also more of a sort of a utility side. There's NFT functionality that is like really tremendous in terms of enabling business or enabling trustless transactions to occur, or supply side traceability or titling or certifications, whatever it might be. A simple thing might be, certified organic. That NFT starts at the farm and it travels with the items until they get into the store itself, and that simplifies that kind of mark, mark listing. There's other things that could be brought in as well.
Another question. Did you say Ether is your blockchain of choice to construct your market? How do participants in your market create and demand for Ethereum if
Yes.
they do?
We are not using Ether, which is really important because, well, for a lot of reasons. One of them is the transaction speed is horrifically slow. The second reason is that it's very expensive to write. You have to pay the gas on all those transactions, which is also not great. And then the third reason is that it's still a proof of work chain despite 4 years of promises for it to be otherwise. And therefore, you have to light a small city every time you want to make a transaction. And so from a environmental standpoint, it's a disaster. So we're using, for our NFTs, we're using Matic. And Matic, it uses the same, development protocols that Ethereum does, but it doesn't have the same proof of work algorithms behind it. It says it uses proof of stake. And it's really a much better platform for this kind of work. So you'll see that the gas fees are in the fractions of a penny, and we can even write 1,000 transactions into one of those gas fee transactions that gets written in. Is keeping track of the custodial trail that way. Now, holy wars will be waged on which of these to use, and this is one of a few that are out there. But we like Matic.
Is that MATIC?
MATIC.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, do we have other questions? I know it seems like there are some in the.
I think we got to the ones in the chat. If anyone wants to just chime in and speak, you can have a dialogue. But there's a quiz on the acronyms that Todd has used, I'm sure. What would be the next step if you're getting started? Are people going to wait for your platform because it's going to be easier, or is there something to do in the meantime?
Well, I mean, look, I don't know what you guys all want to do, so it's hard for me to assess that. If you had some, original digital artwork, or if you had, something that you want to issue as an NFT immediately, there are sort of eBay type platforms where anybody can list anything. And then you're really doing that, though, in Ethereum at the moment. There's no other options. And so for someone to buy it, they actually have to move money, US dollars, into crypto, and then into Ethereum, and then make that purchase. And then if they want to get that money, and then list it, and then pay the gas on that listing and the initial transaction, and then whatever they make on it, they have to go through that same process in reverse to get the money out. And that's one of the major challenges, hurdles that exist in it today, and why it's sort of limiting at the moment. And that's why you're seeing more of a focus on the big crypto investor type of transactions, high valuations, versus more of the democratized access, which we really think is important to open up the entire marketplace for. So.
How will NFTs affect some of the electronic signature platforms?
You're talking about DocuSign and things like that, I imagine.
Probably, yeah. I bet that's a lawyer.
Yeah. So it's a good question. I don't know if it affects them that much, simply because they're already working. They already have a mechanism for that, and generally speaking, you're not in a situation where those signatures are unenforceable in some way. I mean, they already recognized that way. So, but where we do see it coming into play is more around identity, and we can see how an NFT with certain attributes and information can become your persona within certain marketplaces, right? So you could have a social media persona that that is identified by the NFT that you're presenting as proof that it's you.
How was that originally authorized, though? I mean, at that inception, how do you know you're Bob Jones?
There'd have to be a mechanism to create it and mint it, and to hold that back, with other detailed information. And then you're going to present just certain information, just enough information to interact in that way. You could have another persona that was for your medical files and your medical information that travels in different circles. You could have another persona for financial events. So this gets a lot closer to this concept of identity ownership, and really having your identity be fully digital, but you having control over it and being able to monetize it yourself, as opposed to having every time that you do something on Facebook or Twitter, making Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey money. That's one of the things the athletes really like. As an example, they have a lot of content they push out into Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, and right now their perception is that they're making those entities a ton of money, and they're not really seeing that direct exchange back to them. And if they're able to issue NFTs, like they come off, Melo Ball comes off a hot triple double, and he's putting notes up there on it, he can be paid directly for that sale of that information, as opposed to having Mark Zuckerberg make money because it's been posted on Instagram. So there's a, and this is going to be a slowly evolving situation, but it really starts to has the potential to empower the individual over the corporation, and really move much more towards a decentralization of the monetization of information and personality and identity. That's more of a philosophical type of view on it, as opposed to a practical. So there's a question on commodity question, Carl?
Yes, am I unmuted? I'm unmuted. So you started to touch on the use of NFTs for commodities, and to me that always seemed like a non sequitur. The NFT market seems to be about uniqueness, but imagine a microgrid where the trading happens in terms of seconds and minutes, where I might be buying energy from a solar grid in a community. And it always occurred to me too that to do so with crypto, the costs of minting Bitcoin or Ethereum to support those transactions would be overwhelming in terms of the actual blocks of energy that are being moved. So proof of work doesn't seem to fit that model. Proof of authority, or as you call it, proof of stake, seems to be the right way to go. If I have a community of users that are trading a commodity, say energy, considerably less glamorous than the NBA, but still, is there an NFT minting happening on each block of kilowatt hours? What is it in the platform that makes that model work in a way such that a microgrid is it's autonomous and it builds reliability, but it doesn't require me to sit there and watch a signal that says, okay, now it's time to buy solar. And yesterday, because it was a windy day, it was appropriate to buy wind. Imagine a box that figures all of that out, but needs to settle the accounts in some kind of timely manner, and does so with less friction. To me, that's the use case I'm worried about.
Yeah, well, I think less so for, say, commodities traders, because you're right. One of the challenges with on this is that it's non-fungible, right? So non-splittable. It has to represent either a digital or physical asset. But what you can get to is the traceability of an asset and the provenance of it, right? So if I'm if I personally, and this is actually easier to do in other countries other than here, but if I personally, want to ensure that the energy I consume at my house comes from renewable sources, then it's possible for for an NFT model to enable that type of traceability and bring it together. We're currently working actually with a oil and gas pipeline company, not the one that's recently been in the news, but somebody who's hasn't been hacked, to really enable that and facilitate, from all the way from the well to the refinery type of traceability on the origins of all these pieces. Now, obviously, when it's in the middle, it's all mixed together. But what's coming out on the other side, you can trace, pretty finely in terms of, where the various different products came from and how that gets distributed automatically and assigned value on the other end. And the same thing can happen on energy, where you can, be billed, whatever that cost is for renewables sourced energy as an individual consumer. And we can use NFTs to help track that. Now, you could say there probably are ways to make that work in the energy markets themselves. I'm not familiar enough with those to opine on it, but perhaps you are.
Well, I mean, to me, it all of a sudden I'm able to map NFTs to the purchase of power, because you typically in a large scale mode, you buy power in the future, and you are buying a unique block from a certain node on the ISO New England system to support whatever it is that you believe you need, and you do so at a fixed known price, the LPM, at that particular 5-minute interval. So all of a sudden, I could see the applicability for an NFT that says, I want that block for that size and at that moment. And now all of a sudden, that is a unique. It's no longer a commodity in a sense. It's been made into a something personal to me, and I could theoretically prove ownership.
Right.
I can't prove delivery, and I can't know that it came from that wind turbine offshore and versus that one. But I could show some ownership of a quantity with a known value.
Yeah, and you can make sure that the appropriate dollars that you spend go directly back to those entities, right? So and that's one of the key things, right? So it's the for that to happen.
Someone asked about a hybrid model, which is obviously the key of all of this. Everything can be hybrid.
I don't know what that. I'm
Well, it
not
just
sure
means
what the question is on hybrid. I don't know what that means.
I'll give you a hint. I already know that the answer to that one in the energy space is there are going to be a lot of players that are going to push back on any kind of a model that we're all talking about here. So that's just my opinion. That's a political opinion, I think.
It's very hard to do in the U.S. And
Are you with AE Intelligence? Is that your company, Carl?
Yes, I am. Advanced Energy Intelligence,
Are
not
you,
AEI, the think tank in Washington.
Yeah.
No.
So you were in the data business, not necessarily in the energy business.
Oh, I'm in the data analytics of energy business. Precisely, our platform basically informs customers on how to better use energy in that space of time that goes monthly according to your utility bill, but all the way down to the nearest 5 to 10 minutes from your interval meters. Any large building operates a utility meter that spins and calculates energy consumption to the nearest 5 minutes. So
do you interact both ways? Are you part of a marketplace, or is it mostly just?
No, we're not part of a marketplace as of now. But let's put it this way: if somebody said, "Put your platform on top of our microgrid," all of a sudden, in theory, I know the 5-minute pricing from the nodes of ISO New England in the vicinity of that facility. And in theory, the right tariff ascribed to the customer by the utility could support real-time pricing. And now all of a sudden you have a microgrid that says, well, it's cheaper for me to light up a generator than it is to buy peak energy from the grid on a Tuesday afternoon in the summer. Or I'd rather be buying solar because it's in abundance today. Or I might be wanting to buy wind on the right day where that supply is peaking. So
that automated assessment is really, I guess, Todd, that's what kind of the functions that can be built into that variability.
Those automated signals are out there today in most microgrid solutions from, say, Schneider Electric. The thing is, they all require price signals, right, to do what they do, or else they are making guesses versus doing something that optimizes cost.
Okay, we're right at about 55 minutes into the program, and can we?
We'll be about an hour, just an hour longer, John, with Carl, so it's okay.
Can we wrap up any questions that we have amongst the group?
I don't see any others.
Okay, well, with that, Todd, and I really
There's a
appreciate.
hand, there's a hand being waved down below my box.
Alright.
Metz.
Mr.
And
Hand
Pennant.
waiver.
This is Bob Metz. This is fascinating. Is there, I mean, where would we go to learn more about this?
About
You're
what
here-
we're doing
you're here,
or-
Bob.
Or in general?
No, in the topics you've been discussing today, if we wanted to learn more about it after this is over, do you have a website, any recommendations on?
Yeah. So why don't we maybe take away as a follow-up? I'll put together a reading list for anyone who's interested, and we can maybe distribute it. And there are certain sites to follow. There's also a lot of craziness out there, but we'll try to direct you to some responsible articles. But the Wall Street Journal has done a nice job in the past 3 months. If you wanted a simple search, you'd find something there. But we'll pull some together. There's some very good articles out there, and send it on to this distribution list.
Thank you.
And once again, the Boston Blockchain Association.com is for beginners, deployers, and advanced standard creators. So it really has conversation on all different levels. So we can talk about the next meeting that they have, and it's a Zoom call, it's free, and I'll make sure you're on the list. But if anyone will, we'll put that into Todd's reading list as well.
Yeah. Notice that I'll leave just one more note. So this Northwoods League, what we're about to do for them, they will be the second league in the country after the NBA to have a platform like this for their fan base and for their players and teams. So
That's awesome.
they are really excited, and it's fun stuff to work on. I'm not saying compliance banking is not a good time, but this is definitely more interesting. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate the time today, and hopefully we get a chance to meet you all in person sometime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again. This presentation is being recorded and will be at some point posted on our website, so you can reach it there at nstc.org. And then secondly, if you have any, if the group has any suggestions of topics that you'd like to hear about, you can email me at jking@headway-strategies.com, and we'll work to see if we can put together an event that makes sense with that topic. Finally, we're trying to pull together our June event. It may be a speaker or maybe a face-to-face networking, depending on what our governor has to say about gathering with groups outside in the time frame we're talking about, which would be the 16th of June. So with that, again, thank you very, very much for attending. And if you would like to get some more information about NSTC, feel free to jump on our website at nstc.org.